Right now, NSA spying. Our foreign leaders are so-called friends being treated like allies or enemies. White House still dodging the fallout from America's widespread phone tapping of international leaders. Question is, what did the president know and when? And next, the New York City mayoral race, it's just around the corner, and de Blasio is headed towards a historic win. Does Lota even stand a chance anymore? And later, Bloomberg years. Was Mayor Bloomberg a visionary or maybe a petty dictator? We're going to take a stock of the city that the mayor has left behind. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us this Monday evening, October 28th. New revelations today about the NSA surveillance program. The president reportedly in the dark about the extent of the spying. And let's bring in Dominic Carter with the very latest. And some people debating, is it worse that he knew and covered up, or even worse that he didn't know what was going on, all under his guidance?
Good point. The Wall Street Journal tonight, Richard, well, they reported that the president only found out last summer that the U.S. was monitoring nearly 36 heads of state. The NSA spying scandal continues to grow. Today, a report that for 5 years, President Obama had no knowledge that U.S. spies were targeting some 35 heads of state, including some of America's top allies. The Wall Street Journal, citing unnamed U.S. sources, said that President Obama only found out this summer after the White House launched an internal review of NSA surveillance. In August, he said this:
I don't have an interest, and the people of the NSA don't have an interest in doing anything other than making sure that where we can prevent a terrorist attack.
The White House insists the U.S. has stopped spying on German Chancellor Angela Merkel and will not do it in the future. But the Wall Street Journal, citing that programs targeted other world leaders, are still operating. And the leaks, which stem from information from former NSA contractor Edward Snowden, just keeps coming. 2 Spanish newspapers say the NSA secretly monitored 60 million phone calls in Spain in just 1 month. In Washington, mixed reaction from lawmakers.
This whole notion that we're going to go after each other on what is really legitimate protection of nation-state interests, I think is disingenuous.
I think we have repair work to do, and I think we have hard questions we need to ask of the NSA about what's really happening in this program.
Today, top European ministers were in Washington for meetings with lawmakers and administration officials. Talks on the NSA surveillance program are on the agenda, Richard, but the Obama administration insists that's not the main focus of their visit.
Well, Washington certainly has a lot of questions. Let's bring in our panel on this, Dominic. Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science at Illinois College and professor of campaign management at NYU. Evan Stavisky, Democratic strategist and partner at the Parkside Group, and Dominic, who you've already met. All right, so I get, that old Watergate line, either you knew or you should have known here. I'll ask the same question. I'll start with you, Evan. What's worse, that he knew about the program and said what he did last summer, or worse, they didn't even know about its existence and he's the commander-in-chief?
Well, I think you've got, an old phrase in Washington called plausible deniability. And, every president, going back probably to Franklin Roosevelt, has known a little bit more about what other countries, including our allies, have been doing than they probably wanted us to know. And quite frankly, that's just part of the United States' role as the biggest superpower, the only remaining superpower, and part of the military-industrial complex's role in safeguarding the country.
But when you're listening to the phone calls, or Merkel, even when she was a candidate, forgetting an elected official, this isn't just, hey, some of this big net catches some of the calls in your country. It's the actual heads of state themselves. You can understand politically and even economically how this can have blowback on us. And I don't even blame some of them to say, who said you're going to listen to my phone calls, United States?
Yeah, you know, what we've been hearing an awful lot is everybody is doing this, so what's the big
All the
deal?
other kids, yeah.
Everybody is doing it. But of course, the problem is if we knew that France or Germany or Spain were doing it to President Obama or, you know, one of our heads of state, that would make us very, very uncomfortable. And so, you know, it is true that this is done, but I think what is really riling up the Europeans and the people who have been, you know, reacting to this is the size and the scope of what they have learned about this program.
Yep.
So it is true that this is done commonly, but the size and the scope of it is really unnerving to many people, and with good reason. And President Obama has a real problem on his hands because, you know, yes, he can say once again he didn't know this was going on, or he can say he knew and what he said before was his reaction.
In August, we played the clip, Dominic, what the president said. Not only are we not doing this, but this isn't something that we're involved in. He looks terrible as a consequence here. You would think somebody close to him would have said, hey, by the way, Mr. President, we are doing this program. Be careful what you say. And now you worry, what else is going to come out of the Snowden stuff, okay? And secondly, just this broader indictment of his leadership style. His signature program of Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, the rollout here, whether it's fair or not, it falls on him. And they had more than 3 years to ramp up for this thing, and it's not ready for prime time. And now this happens. It's more of an indictment on his style, fair or not, than anything else.
It's almost like the Republicans, you asked me about Obama, I go to the Republicans, it's almost like they finally got the memo. Stay out of the way and let Obama run into his own problems. He's not having a good time right now with the news media that's looking very closely at Obamacare. You know, it would almost be acceptable, Richard, if this spying surveillance, the public, the American public, it seems, would accept this under President Bush. But this was supposed to be a different type of president. He was more of a world statesman, winning the Nobel Peace Prize and so on. And now it turns out the same things that you would expect under President Bush is happening under this president.
And to me, Evan, it seems like he's got to pick. He's got to pick a style that he's going to go for here. Either he's going to be PO'd and he's going to say heads are going to roll over this. Somebody's going to pay a price for the rollout of my signature legislative accomplishment. Somebody's going to pay a price here for not keeping me, the commander-in-chief, in the loop as to what our policies are in terms of, you know, major data troves here and spying on our allies and their leadership. Or he's going to take ownership of this thing and saying, yeah, you might not have liked it, but the buck stops with me. I take ownership of it. I don't think he can have it both ways, or neither.
Well, the president can do pretty much whatever a president wants to do. The question is whether or not he'll be held accountable for it. And I think Dominic's right. You know, just look at what happened in the shutdown. If the Republicans could get out of their own way, the problems that the Obamacare websites
To his
would
point,
have
they
had.
got the memo. What do you think he does now, though?
Look, I think there's very distinct differences here, right? So when it comes to what the NSA is up to, I think most Americans are way more uncomfortable about warrantless wiretapping of U.S. citizens than they are the United States finding out what's going on, even amongst candidates.
But it's not a problem with that. You're 100% right. You talk to 10 people out there, they're going to shrug. Merkel who, right? But the point is, there's a consequence when our allies, forget about militarily, economically, we don't live in a bubble here. You can understand, and apparently you look at the dailies across Europe right now, they're livid with us. Trade agreements, we want them to participate in the war on terror, all the other things. It's not like we can just bury our hands in the sand and this disappears.
No, but you know, the point is, you know, what President Obama can do about the NSA scandal is he can say, you know, I'm not going to apologize for this. I mean, that is an option. I don't know if it's the best option for him at this point, but he can absolutely do what Peter King suggested. You know, I'm not going to apologize for this. The NSA has kept us safe. I am in charge of the NSA. I know what's going on. They have kept us safe, and you should be happy with that. Listen, when the NSA came out before, they said, don't worry, Americans, we're only investigating and listening and wiretapping foreigners. And that's what we've learned. They're wiretapping foreigners.
Except not the president of Germany.
Absolutely.
You know, and
I'm not saying it's right, but what I'm saying is Obama has some options here. But the problem for President Obama is what Dominic indicated. He ran saying he was going to be a different kind of president. He ran saying, you know, the world community will like me and embrace me more than it did George Bush, and that has not occurred.
I just know at least this much. Apparently, those close say they expect more to come out of the Snowden, document dumps here. And if you think this is bad, they say there's even more to come. So
he's an enemy of state. I mean, this guy is sitting back.
Don't get me on that one. I happen to
selectively-
agree with you. If Andrew were here, we'd have a fight on our hands here. But for tonight, at least with you and me, there's some consensus on this. All right. Head over to Facebook and Twitter, everybody, and sound off on the question. Regarding the spying program, do you think it's worse if the president knew and was supportive of this program? Or is it worse if he didn't know and learned like the rest of us when the front page of the German daily or the Wall Street Journal? All right, when we come back, we will turn to the campaign trail. We got some experts at the table to talk about the two big races, at least in our neck of the woods, and also some other races might be a little bit closer, whether it's the New York City mayoral race or in the New Jersey gubernatorial race. We've got blowout on our hands. We want to know why and what does it say. Stay with us. We'll be right back.